Okay, welcome all. Quite a lot on the agenda to get to, so if we make a prompt start. Apologies for absence. I've received one apology from Councillor Ed Biggs. Anyone, two declarations of interest?
You're speaking into the wrong microphone.
I'm sorry,
because your name won't come up if you speak into the wrong one.
So better now. Okay, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, if there's no declarations of interest, then record of decisions, pages 7 to 16. Can we agree those? Just moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That then takes us on to overview and scrutiny, and to receive the recommendations as outlined at 4. 2. Let me just find one. So agenda item 4A, the first one, the indicator SP004D number of outstanding fire risk assessment remedials be changed from number outstanding to number overdue. See no issue with that. We're happy to accept that. Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. And then we've got the Kersney Cafe and Billiard Room. We have two.
The second one isn't really for cabinet, it's the first one.
Just the first one.
Yeah. Because that's something that's for overview and scrutiny only.
Okay.
So it's really that one you're looking at.
Right. Okay. So I mean, we got the. I'm advised that we've only got to consider A, that a more detailed report be provided to Cabinet and Overview and Scrutiny Committee containing full financial figures. I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I'm going to be honest. The one that say is the second one, but I'm told we don't need to consider that. I mean, the issue I have with the second one is I'm not sure that we want to keep reinventing the wheel. I mean, I've spoken to the 151 officer. They're quite happy that the financial details is and that is reported back via their report, which I want officers to concentrate on delivery rather than anything else. So, I mean, happy to accept one, and then my view is that the B part should be covered by the 151 officers. Financial update and short narrative can be given on their quarterly reports. Is the 151 officer here? Is that correct? I'm looking at the wrong speaker.
Yep. Happy that we can tie that into the quarterly financial report that comes anyway, so we can link that up and bring that together for next year.
Detail. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. With regards to A, considering I meet with Chris Townend every week and we go over in detail Kersney, do we need to have a full financial report brought to Cabinet as well as overview and scrutiny, or are we happy for it to go as they requested, for it to go to them?
I mean, I'm content for it to go to them. I mean, we will get the quarterly financial report anyway, which will include the details. So
what they requested after the last report, they wanted a detailed financial report to come to overview and scrutiny as a first, and then following on from that to have quarterly updates. So I don't know if you want, or if my colleagues want, that more detailed report to be provided to Cabinet as well as going to scrutiny.
things off as outlined with the 151 officers report, if you're happy with that. Councillor Nee.
Thank you, Chair. I've spoken with the portfolio holder and with the head of the department, and we would get a report by exception anyway if there's anything going wrong. We've got a business that year on year is improving its financial performance. In absolute terms, it's de minimis in terms of the amount of money this council is responsible for. And I'm just worried that if we start making a quarterly report on something in absolute terms isn't a huge amount of money, that we then start doing a report in absolute terms on just about everything, which means then our officers are spending all their time compiling reports and nobody's got time to deliver anything.
Thank you very much. So we've had some discussion around that and some amendment to the recommendation. Did you want to cover it?
Yes. So on the first recommendation, A, I didn't quite hear what you were saying, Councillor Lee, but I think what you're saying is that that you accept that first one. So there'll be a report to Cabinet and then overview the scrutiny. And then on the second one, that will be that's covered by the Section 151 officers quarterly report. So you're acknowledging that second one.
Yeah. We'll report it via the 151 officer.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what you're voting for.
Okay. So it's been moved. Is it seconded? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Takes us then on to item 5, revised complaints policy. Who's leading off on that? Rebecca.
Thank you, Leader. As members will be aware from the report, the Housing Ombudsman has conducted a review of our complaints policy. As part of this review, there were 7 areas identified for review and improvement. We have accepted all 7 of these recommendations and have incorporated them into the revised complaints policy before you tonight. In summary, the recommendations were: recommendation 1, that the council should include in its complaints policy that residents that express dissatisfaction are given a choice to make a complaint. We've amended paragraph 1.5 to reflect that. Council staff are already made aware that to be a complaint, a resident does not have to use the word complaint. We will remind staff that an assessment of all communication needs to be done to determine if a matter is a service request or a complaint. Recommendation 2, the council should amend its complaints policy to reflect the complaints about members of staff will be handled in line with the 2-stage complaints process. We've deleted paragraph 6.5, added in a new paragraph 3.4 that basically states that where complaints are made about the conduct or behaviour of members of staff or contractors, these will be accepted under the complaints policy. However, should the council need to take disciplinary or other HR action, this would not be included in the complaint response. The aim is that the council can still address the behaviour and impact on the resident in its response. So we have a new paragraph 3.4 that reflects this, and in many cases with minor complaints against staff, we were doing this anyway. Recommendation 3, the council should amend its complaint policy and include an explanation of how it publicises the complaints policy. The accessibility and awareness section has been expanded to set out more information on how the council raises awareness of its complaint policy. To build on this, Corporate Services will be attending a meeting with the tenant representative group in September 2026 to provide a review of housing related complaints performance for the year, as the Housing Ombudsman self-assessment is due to be submitted by 30 September. And we'll also be taking the view of tenants as they are best placed to advise us how to communicate with other tenants. So hopefully that will also improve how we're promoting the policy to our tenants. Recommendation 4, the council should remove the informal stage in its complaint policy. Having more than 2 stages is not acceptable under any circumstances, as this will make the complaint process unduly long and delay access to the Ombudsman. This relates to the interpretation of the section titled the complaints procedure, section 6 of the current policy, section 7 in the revised. This section is meant to refer to the handling of service requests, and this does not convey this clearly enough based on the feedback from the Housing Ombudsman. It was never meant to imply the existence of a stage 0 in the complaints policy, so we've deleted that paragraph. Recommendation 5, the council should amend its complaint policy to include where a response to a complaint falls outside the timescales. Council will agree with the residents' suitable intervals for keeping them informed. We've added new paragraphs at 8.6 and 9.8 to reflect this. We believe that this currently happens in an unstructured manner at this time. We'll update all staff that deal with stage 1 complaints following full council meeting on Wednesday. Recommendation 6, the council should include in section 7 of its complaint policy that the council will provide the resident with the complaint definition in its stage 1 acknowledgement. We set this out at paragraph 9.10, which referring to stage 2 complaints in the policy. That's now been replicated in a new paragraph 8.15 for stage 1s. We actually do this. The council does require this as part of the template letter used for stage 1 responses for officers to set out the complaint. However, we're accepting that it should be stated in the complaints policy as well, so that will be revised. Recommendation 7, the council should include in its complaint policy at stage 2 that a response will be provided to the resident when the answer is known, not when outstanding actions are completed, and any outstanding actions will be tracked, actioned, and updates provided to the resident. We've added new paragraphs at 8.6 and 9.8 on this. Again, this is something that we have been doing, but again, not documenting in the policy. So this will add consistency, and again, we will ensure that all officers are made aware of this. As we were reviewing the policy, we did take the opportunity to make a few minor tweaks to it, including adding the housing ombudsman definition of a service request in there. It's functionally similar to what we were using anyway, so it doesn't make any particular difference. We've also revised the appendices to follow the flowcharts used by the housing ombudsman to help identify if matter is a complaint. The report will also be going to council on Wednesday, as the complaints policy covers both executive and non-executive matters. That's it. Thank you, Chairman. Unless there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important to point out that in all of the oversight I've had of complaints over the past year, it's clear there is no issue with how we handle complaints. This is purely a tidying up and I would say some improvement to our complaints policy, and therefore I move that we do accept it.
Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Takes then on to item 6, parking services replacement machine options for operation. Andrew.
Thank you. So this is a request for consideration to move to a cashless parking operation as part of our procurement of replacement P&D machines. Currently, we have around 50% of our machines that do not take a card payment, and the other 50% include old technology, sort of chip and pin card payments. Majority of our outages and the maintenance are related to the cash mechanisms in the machines or the old chip and pin technology. The proposal, therefore, is to align all machine payment options to have contactless mobile app or pay by phone. The cash usage for parking has reduced significantly in the last 2 to 3 years and continues to decline, reflecting wider changes in how people are choosing to pay. Since 22-23, the cash payments have declined from 38% to 20% of the total pay and display income, with card and app payments now accounting for 80%. As a council, we have a duty to respond to these changes whilst also ensuring that we are delivering services in the most efficient and cost-effective way. The handling of cash is increasingly expensive, requiring collection, security and maintenance of machines. By moving to cashless payments, we can reduce these costs and reinvest the resources into maintaining and improving parking services for everyone. We recognise that removing cash as a payment option will impact some residents, particularly those who are elderly or less confident with digital technology. However, we have carefully considered this, and a range of alternative payment methods will remain available across all machines, ensuring that people are not reliant on apps or smartphones. This is a balanced approach which we hope recognises the need to modernise services whilst putting mitigations in place to support those who may be affected. Any questions?
Thank you. Councillors. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Can I just ask, paragraph 3.1, what are the latest traffic regulation order changes that you mention?
Yeah, it's a small one. It's just outside of the St James car park. So we have a situation at the moment where we have a Ringo machine there. We're charging people from the minute they go there, and obviously they're using St James's, so it's a pointless thing for us. So we're going to put a limited wait in there for an hour. So we're going to give the same parking restriction as St James's, just inside the location there. It doesn't require a machine.
Thank you, Chair. There is comment about people wanting to use cash. Now, I see that as a preference for probably most of the people who want to use cash. So I think we're down to 20% cash now, reducing over years from about 48%. So it's a reducing margin. Of the 20% paying cash, I suspect most of that is a preference for using cash, because when I want to use cash, I've got to go to a cash point anyway to draw out the cash to spend the cash. So it gets a bit circular, this argument about cash is the only way to pay for parking. We acknowledge and accept in the paper, and if we do pass this, we acknowledge and accept that ultimately there will be some individuals who will be disadvantaged. But when we're looking at the pressures that we're under as a council, this is an exceptionally cost efficient method of saving us substantial sums of money and providing a more secure revenue stream, and certainly taking cash collection out of the health and safety side of our responsibilities is a major benefit. So I move that we accept this report.
Can I just say, this isn't the first time that as a council we have proposed cashless parking payments, and in 2022 cashless payment was introduced on a long road in Dover, and in fact there was no tapping of your card. You just had to use Ringo or phone up, and that is still in place, and I'm unaware of any big problems associated with that. So this is nothing new to the council. Yeah, just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you very much. So it's been moved, seconded. It's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Fixes. Then on to packaging extended procurement responsibility project.
Thank you, Chair. So the simpler recycling requirements mandate the separate collection of core recycling materials, specifically food waste, paper card and all other dry recyclable materials, plastic, metal, cans and glass, from households effectively from the 1st of April 2026. The collection of this full range of recyclable materials is already offered to approximately 95% of our households. However, there is a shortfall of separate recyclable containment and capture communal properties. This project is proposed to improve the containment and increase the capture of household recyclable materials in this district, particularly at communal properties, in line with the simpler recycling packaging extended producer responsibility grant expectations. The council receives a grant from PAC UK, the DEFRA appointed scheme administrator for recycling, and have provided the council with grant funding of approximately £1.4 million in 2025-26 and a further £1.4 million in 26-27. The 26-27 medium-term financial plan includes 200,000 of the 1.4 million for implementation of a project to enhance the capture of household recyclable material, particularly at communal properties. The remaining funding is applied to support the ongoing costs of running and managing the recycling service. Permission is being sought to draw down on the allocation of £200,000 contained within the MTFP, and there are indicative project costs within the report. The proposed post and project expenditure will be fully funded through the packaging extended producer responsibility grant. So we're asking for permission to proceed with that project. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Nee.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, it's grant funding, so it's at no cost to us as a council, so it immediately makes it attractive. What I suspect will happen is that this is the start of a very long and painful journey, because what's going to happen is we're going to find out all the shortcomings in terms of the blocks, these basic blocks of flats. We're going to find that the storage areas for waste is not compatible with the requirements for sorting waste. Space is going to have to be found for additional storage for waste. We can do that on our blocks because we own the land, but private blocks of flats will have to make their own arrangements. So the unitary are welcome to the continuing saga of this as and when it happens, because I think this will be debated for years to come, because this is just the start of a long and painful journey. I move that we accept the grant and start the process.
Councillor Biggs is obviously not here today, but this is his portfolio, so he's dropped me a very quick email before he went. Yeah, it fully supports it and understands the need for doing it. Obviously, with the number of communal properties we've got, it will need a significant increase in officer time to deal with this, and we accept the funding is in there. But his concern, to some extent, while supporting wholeheartedly the document, is, you know, he feels there's a need to get some more further guidance from the government on what support is going to be provided to enable both the authority and landlords going forward to comply with the new simpler recycling requirements. So if Cabinet's happy, what he has asked me to suggest is that also, while accepting this document, we write to Mary Krieg, MP, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, for further guidance and advice on the implementations of these requirements. So that's what he's asked for in his absence, if we're happy to go with that. So we're happy to move the recommendation as outlined with the letter to the relevant Parliamentary Under Secretary. So if we're happy with that, is that moved and seconded? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moves us on then to approval project funding for repair of Dolphin House. David.
Thank you, Chair. Major repair works are required at Dolphin House to remove the existing balustrades, dividers and planters to the front and the rear of the property and replace with new. Works are also required to the fabric of the building, including walkways, roofs and brickwork. This report seeks Cabinet approval to commence the Stage 1 consultation under Section 20 of the Landlord and Tenant Act. It also seeks to approve a drawdown of £200,000 funding identified in the medium-term financial plan to instruct an external agent to assist with the preparation of a specification of works needed to create a tender package to advance through the consultation stages. The consultation stage is required under Section 20 of the Landlord and Tenant Act. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any question, Councillor Nee?
Can I confirm with you, David, when the evaluation of options, option 1, you say that the balustrades are becoming dangerous, are we highlighting here a health and safety risk in terms of doing nothing?
We are inspecting the railing, so there are repairs carried out, but yes, ultimately it'll be a health and safety risk. It's worth noting that the balustrades are currently fixed through the roofs as well, which sit above the commercial units at the moment as well, so it's not possible to separate the works.
Any other councillors? Right.
As we're just looking for Section 1, issuing the notice of intention, stage 1 rather, and the drawing down of monies that's already allocated in the medium-term financial plan, I'd like to move this.
Okay, I mean, the only observation I was going to make is this seems to be overdue, as this has been ongoing since 2018 with the residents requesting it's been done. I understand there's some discussion that they didn't want the balconies done at the same time did the roof, but you know, it's disappointing that, you know, from 2018 and we got planning approval was given in 2021, which must mean that's almost coming to an end. If it hasn't already come to an end, there seems to have been, you know, not a lot done, for want of a better phrase. That said, it's been, the recommendations outlined here have been moved and seconded. All those in, is it moved and seconded? Sorry. Yeah, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Housing revenue account, asset management. Booth.
Yeah, that's me as well, Chair. Thank you. Purpose of this report is to provide detail in relation to the Housing Asset Management Strategy 26 to 2031 and seek cabinet approval for the strategy to be adopted. A housing asset management strategy provides a structured approach to understanding the condition and performance of assets, prioritising investment and managing risks such as health and safety, regulatory compliance and asset failure. The key objective of the strategy is to set out the council's approach to managing its housing assets to ensure its homes are safe, compliant and fit for purpose over the long term. The Housing Asset Management Strategy outlines the council's approach for managing our housing asset portfolio and will be reviewed annually. The strategy will be measured against the following measures: 100% health and safety compliance, 100% decent home standard compliance, 100% of Dover District Council's homes achieving an EPC rating of A to C by April 2030, 100% of stock condition surveys less than 5 years old, and 100% of identified flood mitigation measures in place. It's just worth noting the strategy focus on meeting the current decent home standard. It also notes that this will be reviewed once the government has published detailed guidance on the new decent home standard. Compliance with the new decent home standard will be required by 2035. The asset management strategy will help inform the new 30-year HRA business plan, which will be the principal document that will set out how the council plans to manage, maintain and invest its housing stock over the long term, whilst keeping the housing revenue account financially sustainable. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chair. Since we had an earlier discussion with the head of asset, we have now got the update on the decent homes, which was the main query I had at the time, and I think that knits in very nicely. We've got an expanding stock as well, so we need to maintain our existing, keep everything up to speed. So with that in mind, I move that we accept this.
Thank you very much. It's been moved, seconded. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 10, which is the financial update quarter 4.
Thank you. So, as I say, this is the quarter 4 financial update report. The main point to note this quarter that the general fund is currently forecasting a £550,000 surplus, which is lower than the quarter 3 forecast by around about 300,000. This is included in more detail at paragraph 2.2, with the main items being a reduction in the staffing savings previously forecast, offset by a further increase in planning fee income, and then offset the other way back by a reduction in parking income as forecast for the year. It's also worth noting that we've added a risk to all sections to reflect potential contract pressures on fuel and inflation from the current global issues that we're facing. The HRA is forecasting a deficit of £428,000. The main variance is being the increases in response contract works and also borrowing interest costs, reflecting the ongoing growth in our housing development programme. Members will also note that the updates on the Section 24 recommendations are no longer included in the report, and this is following the closing of the recommendations by Grant Thornton earlier in the year. Updates will now be provided to members as and when necessary, rather than as a standard in the quarterly update. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chair. So this document is a statement of fact because it's the year-end report. Everything is as is. I think what it shows is how volatile a budget can be. We're forecasting a £6,000 surplus and we end up with £553,000 surplus. So all budgets can be volatile. We've got pressures coming through with the war in Iran now, and that is definitely going to affect us. Just on that increased cost of short-term borrowing for cash flow, it comes in as a lot of money, but can you just give us an explanation of why that has come so high, because it looks as an outlier at the moment?
It's timing. We keep an eye out on it throughout the year, and it's just really picking up at year end what that overall forecast position is. So it's really sort of reflecting the full year position. as it's built up across the year. It is also worth mentioning, I should have said at the beginning, that this is still a Q4 forecast. The team are very busily working on the actual year-end position, so this could still change. As you say, things are volatile, but these will be picking up the big items that we picked up in that final quarter. So there could still be changes before the final position comes to yourselves in June or July.
Thank you for that. Does anybody else wish to add anything?
I just move that we
Note.
Note, yeah.
It's been moved, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Takes us down to strategic performance indicators for 26-27.
Thank you, Chairman. May I request that we take item 12 first, as it covers the backward look of performance for Q4, and then move on to item 11, as that gives the forward look for strategic performance in 26-7.
Are members happy to do that? Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so skipping to page 108 of the pack, this report provides a summary of performance against the strategic performance indicators for Q4, which covers the period 1st of January to the 31st of March 2026. Page 5 of Appendix 1, or 115 of this pack, gives a summary of the headline achievements and any areas of concern to monitor. The highlights are the strong progress on the fire risk assessment actions, planning applications being dealt with, waste and port health. And there's a couple of lowlights to highlight, which are continues to be housing register, as expected, environmental cleanliness is a slight drop, and antisocial behaviour. And as always, I'm happy to take any questions if I can answer them. However, I may need to refer to the head of service or team if I can't.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Just running through some of the performance indicators. SPO 13 is about the percentage of non-major planning applications determined, but the comment says 163 apps issued. Is this a typo? Should that be decisions?
Yes, I've gone back to the team and we'll change that to decisions.
Thank
I think
you.
I've already changed it, ready for the scrutiny report.
Right. 21. 27B is my favourite because it's got lots of things in it. So it's planning enforcement cases. So 33 of them are no breach, and that is logical to me. 26 are not expedient to enforce, and that is logical to me. So 9 are planning application received. What does that mean in terms of it being dealt with, being closed?
So talking to the team, the planning application received basically means that we've got a planning application in, so we close down the enforcement case.
Thank you. Does that mean then if planning is not granted, it becomes an enforcement case against, or does it have to be complained about again to become an enforcement case?
I would need to double check, but I think it doesn't automatically open up. It would have to be complained about again.
Okay, thank you. So then we've got 7 no further actions. So my question here is, what's the difference between no further action and not expedient to enforce?
I think,
go on.
Having discussed that with the manager, they have agreed, now re-looking at them, to come up with some standardised closure statements, because they also agreed that 3 not untidy. They're basically just, again, not expedient to enforce. So the site's been checked. It's not as untidy as obviously the complaint was suggesting, and so therefore they would just close that one down. In addition, I'm preempting the fact that they only add up to 89 and there's 91, and that's because superseded is a typo and it should say 3.
Okay, thank you.
So going forward from Q1, we will be making sure that we come up with a standardised set of closure categories.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
With that, I move that we accept the report.
Okay, it's been moved. Anyone else want to speak? Okay, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay. Item 11 then, please.
So skipping back to page 87. We'll now look at the strategic performance indicators for 26-27. This report outlines the proposed changes to the suite of strategic performance indicators for the next year from the 1st of April to the 31st of March 27. If agreed, the changes will come into effect from the 1st, I've already said that, 26. This information is already available within the teams. The recommended changes have come about as a result of the annual business planning process, where teams, heads of service and directors were asked to identify their priorities for this coming year, including supporting risks, challenges and key performance indicators. The proposed changes as track changes for the full transparency are outlined in Appendix 1, with Appendix 2 providing a clean version of the proposed suite of indicators should the recommended changes be agreed. Most of the recommended changes are to the area of housing and compliance, and Andy Vincent will explain the rationale for these changes in more detail in a moment. I would then recommend we focus any questions on Appendix 1, which can be found on page 92 onwards. And with that, I'll hand over to Andy.
Thanks, Susie. So as you can see from Appendix 1, we have amended the stock condition survey performance indicator. Clearly, it's very important that we continue to survey our properties, but I would say that the stock condition survey indicator is kind of a feeder indicator into our compliance with the Decent Home Standard, which is a regulatory requirement. So ensuring visibility on this is essential. The stock condition survey indicator will become an operational indicator, and we have, as David was describing earlier, a 5-year programme to survey our stock on a rolling basis, and we are performing well, as you've seen earlier from the Q4 PI sheet. On that, we're well into the 90%. So we'll continue to monitor it, but it's important that the regulatory standard is presented to members. We also have amended the compliance performance suite. We've taken on board the comment that was made by overview and scrutiny around overdue fire risk assessment recommendations. And we've also added the other compliance performance indicators into the suite. So Cabinet have a full view as to where we are in terms of our health and safety compliance position. And we've done that both for housing and for corporate assets. So that's the sort of logic as to the amendments we've made. Thank you.
So I've only one question, and that's the SP005G passenger lift in communal areas. All the inspections are up to date. It hopefully will come out in our stock condition surveys that if there are any personal lifts at any of our properties, they do require a regular test as well. So as long as we can be assured that that won't be overlooked, I'm happy to accept the proposed change to the indicators and move that we accept them.
If I can assure members that won't be overlooked, it's one of our operational performance indicators, and we are reporting it to the Housing Working Group, so we are monitoring that.
Okay, anybody else? No? Okay, we happy to move and second that then? Is it moved? Yeah. And seconded? All those in favour? Thank you very much.